Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a diagnostic journey into one of the absolute most overlooked crises in modern human health, and that's the mechanics of our sleep. We're going to explore how your micro-mental health, your cognitive endurance for deep work, and even your cellular aging are entirely dependent on the physical state of your airway the moment you close your eyes. We're diving deep into the biomechanics of snoring and uncovering the hidden systemic dangers of sleep disorders. Because when you really get down to the biology of it, the quality of your breath at night dictates the biological age of your body during the day.
So let's kick things off with a foundational question. You really have to ask yourself, is your nighttime noise simply a harmless habit, or is it actually a blaring biological siren warning you of a severe underlying health failure? Modern society so often just dismisses snoring as a punchline, but from a strict clinical standpoint, every single snore is a sign of airway resistance. And when that resistance escalates, well, it triggers a devastating domino effect across your dopamine systems, your cardiovascular network, and your metabolic health. It's all connected. To truly decode this, we need a roadmap. We'll hit exactly 6 areas today. First, the anatomy of a snore. Second, sleep apnea warning signs. Third, hidden bedroom culprits. Fourth, lifestyle and habit fixes. Fifth, myofunctional therapy exercises. And sixth, advanced medical solutions. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, the anatomy of a snore. Okay, we need to draw a critical, life-altering distinction between a partial airway obstruction and a complete one. Normal snoring happens when the flow of air is only partially blocked. As you fall asleep, gravity and muscle relaxation take over, causing tissues like your soft palate and uvula to narrow the airway. Forcing air through that tight little passage, it causes those tissues to vibrate violently. That's the sound of a snore. But contrast that with sleep apnea. This is where the airway collapses entirely. The vibration stops, the sound stops, and crucially, terrifyingly, the oxygen supply to your brain stops. Moving right along to Section 2, sleep apnea warning signs. Let's look at the clinical baseline of this breathing failure. Obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA, is defined by the repeated complete closure of your throat while you sleep. Think about what happens biologically here. Your airway shuts, and your brain senses this sudden, massive drop in blood oxygen. In response, it literally panic wakes you, just enough to force that airway back open, which often sounds like a sudden gasp or choke. Now, you usually won't even remember these micro-awakenings, but they completely shatter your sleep architecture. They physically prevent your brain from ever reaching that deep, restorative delta wave sleep that is absolutely required for memory consolidation, emotional resilience, and neuroplasticity. 30 million. The sheer scale of this crisis is just staggering. An estimated 30 million people in the United States alone suffer from sleep apnea. Yet researchers actually believe the true prevalence is astronomically higher because the vast majority of cases go totally undiagnosed. People just walk around assuming they're losing their edge, maybe getting older or just burning out. They are completely unaware that they are chronically starving their brain of oxygen hundreds of times every single night. Because of that oxygen starvation, the systemic consequences radiate way, way beyond the bedroom. You start to see crushing daytime fatigue and recurring morning headaches directly stemming from that nightly hypoxia. But the long-term impact, that is where healthy aging is completely derailed. We're talking severe memory impairment and cognitive decline, all because your brain is being denied its necessary nightly maintenance. We also see high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease pop up simply because your heart is working in a state of constant, desperate overdrive, trying to pump oxygen-depleted blood throughout the body. This is literally systemic inflammation at its core. So what do we do about it? Before we even think about complex medical interventions, we have to look at our immediate environment. Section 3, hidden bedroom culprits. You spend nearly a third of your entire life in your bedroom. That makes it ground zero for microscopic allergens like dust mites, pet dander, and mold. When you inhale these all night, your immune system mounts a massive inflammatory response, severely swelling your nasal passages. And here is the domino effect. That congestion forces a physiological shift from natural nasal breathing right over to mouth breathing. Mouth breathing completely bypasses the body's natural air filtration system, immediately amplifies any snoring, and dramatically spikes your risk of full airway collapse. To combat this, you've got to aggressively allergy-proof your microenvironment. Here is a highly actionable clinical checklist for environmental optimization. First, use a true HEPA air purifier to capture those airborne particles. Second, wash your bedding weekly in 130-degree water. That's the temperature required to eradicate dust mites. Third, keep your indoor humidity strictly below 50% to literally starve mold and mites of the moisture they need to survive. Fourth, keep your pets out of the bedroom entirely. I know it's tough, but it's crucial. And finally, consider switching to a natural latex mattress because latex is naturally inhospitable to those microscopic allergens. Let's transition to Section 4, Lifestyle and Habit Fixes.
It is actually remarkable how a simple shift in biomechanics can totally alter your sleep destiny. If you're sleeping flat on your back, you are allowing gravity to pull the heavy base of your tongue and your soft palate straight down against the back of your throat. You're essentially creating a massive physical barrier to your own airflow, but simply training yourself to sleep on your side prevents those tissues from collapsing backward. It naturally stents the airway open and dramatically reduces the vibrations that trigger snoring in the first place.
We also absolutely have to talk about gut health and dietary habits, because your digestive tract and your airway are intimately connected. Carrying excess weight around the neck mechanically compresses the airway from the outside. Meanwhile, consuming alcohol or sedatives right before bed is uniquely destructive. They artificially paralyze your throat muscles, stripping them of the natural tension they need to stay open. Furthermore, eating late-night dairy thickens your mucus, and processed sugars, they trigger acid reflux or GERD. That highly acidic stomach fluid can literally aspirate up into your throat while you sleep, causing severe inflammation and swelling that blocks your breathing. Which brings us to Section 5, Myofunctional Therapy Exercises.
Now, the clinical data here is going to blow your mind. Landmark meta-analyses show that myofunctional therapy, which is essentially physical therapy for your throat, can decrease the apnea-hypopnea index by roughly 50% in adults and over 60% in children. By systematically exercising your tongue, soft palate, and pharyngeal walls, you are actively rebuilding baseline neuromuscular tone. You're giving your airway the muscular endurance it needs to resist collapsing under the negative pressure of a deep breath.
Think of this daily 20-minute protocol as elite strength training for your airway. Here's how it works. Step 1, pronounce your vowels A, E, I, O, U loudly and continuously for 3 minutes to build up palate endurance. Step 2, place the tip of your tongue right behind your top teeth and slide it firmly backward along the hard palate for 3 minutes. This targets the genioglossus muscle, training it to pull the tongue forward and out of the airway. Step 3, inflate your cheeks with your mouth closed and then suck them inward. This conditions the exact facial muscles you require to maintain a healthy closed-mouth nasal breathing posture all night long. And quickly, while we're on the topic of non-invasive options, we really need to debunk a super pervasive myth: over-the-counter nasal strips. Look, while they do effectively and mechanically widen the nasal valve to relieve simple, surface-level congestion, the clinical consensus is crystal clear. They do not cure complex throat snoring, and they definitely don't cure obstructive sleep apnea. Why? Because the primary anatomical collapse in OSA occurs way deeper down in the throat, entirely beyond the reach of a surface-level adhesive strip on your nose. For those deeper, stubborn anatomical obstructions, we arrive at the final tier of our diagnostic journey. Section 6, Advanced Medical Solutions. When behavioral and environmental fixes just aren't enough, we turn to a strict hierarchy of clinical interventions. The absolute gold standard for moderate to severe OSA is the CPAP machine. It uses mild pneumatic pressure to literally stent your airway open with a continuous, steady stream of air. If you're dealing with mild OSA, custom-fitted oral appliances are fantastic. They gently lock the lower jaw forward, which physically expands the space in the back of the throat. And finally, for severe anatomical blocks or CPAP intolerance, cutting-edge surgical options exist. These range from targeted soft tissue removal all the way to implanting a hypoglossal nerve stimulator. This is an incredible pacemaker-like device that actually senses your breathing and electrically prompts your tongue to move forward on every single inhale. It's truly amazing technology. Which brings us to our ultimate takeaway for this explainer. We've traced the interconnected biological lines, from microscopic bedroom allergens right down to gut-inflaming diets, and from throat muscle endurance all the way to the preservation of your aging brain. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Is your nightly snoring just a harmless annoyance? Or is it a desperate warning siren from a body begging for the oxygen it needs to repair, to focus, and to age with vitality? Don't ignore the noise. Take action to optimize your airway, protect your brain, and reclaim the deeply restorative sleep that your biology demands.